There are more fake natties than ever before, and so what do you need to look for? What do you need to do? Let's get right on top of it. Coach Greg, in today's video, I'm going to give you the top 10 tips. What did I say? The top 10 tips on how to become a fake natty. And so tip number one, I do believe the most popular as of recent years, you have to try to become affiliated and or a part of HLT Supplements. If you become a part owner of HLT Supplements, Coach Greg will authenticate no matter what that you're natural. He'll lie about the blood work, probably get fake doctors to do the testing, contact Jeff Nippert. We'll go through any means possible to try and prove that you're natural. Oh, by the way, we're looking for more sponsored athletes and affiliates. We're trying to take HLT Supplements to the moon, and we need you to do that. And so if you're interested, apply by clicking the link in the description. Number two, it's very important that you stop taking performance-enhancing drugs approximately 2 months or more before you send me your blood work, because if you don't hop off in time, I'm going to expose you. And so unfortunately, Prosper Fitness, he didn't get the memo. He didn't get off the PEDs in time. And when he sent me his blood work, well, he failed. Now you can in fact pass regular drug tests if you use fast clearing esters and so on. For example, test suspension, that's going to clear it the quickest. You'll most certainly pass a drug test in a week, probably less than a week, but you will in fact still fail the blood work. And so please be careful, hop off the drugs in plenty of time before getting either drug tested or doing your blood work. If you get contacted by me with no notice, don't send me your blood work. You're going to fail. This, a very clever one, always deny using steroids, but be specific to saying steroids and not saying all performance-enhancing drugs. Because when you say, I never took steroids, it's very, very specific. You could have taken IGF-1, you could have taken growth hormone, MK677, peptides, SARMs, the list goes on and on. You just say, I don't take steroids, I'm not a cheat. You could be on so many different things. And even Rampage Jackson, well, he was literally on testosterone and said, I'm 100% natural. He didn't know that testosterone was a steroid.
I did steroids? Yeah. But even though I was on testosterone, I was still natty. Yeah, they lied.
He was shocked Bradley Martin was interviewing him, and he was outed. He was caught in 4K. This is important for everyone to do. Don't take too many steroids. Don't be overly impressive. Decently impressive, but don't make such a transformation that no one will believe it. For example, with Julian and Hussein Farhat, they gained so much muscle in only perhaps 3 or 4 years that people don't believe it. And so if you only gain 3/4 as much as that muscle, then people say, well, you know what? Maybe he's natural. And so they'll give you credibility. And so you take lower doses, for example, high-end TRT, and once a year, you go off everything. During that period of time, it's very important that you post a lot of throwback photos, that you announce to the world that you were injured. For example, when David Lade hurt his shoulder, I do believe it was from deadlifting, when he was deadlifting over 700 pounds as a teenager, and he never got that strength back. It's important that when you cycle off, you announce and say, I'm injured. You post old throwbacks. You don't show the people that you've lost a lot of muscle, and you perhaps use that time to say, you know what? I haven't locked in. I've been drinking. I've been partying more, pulling a Mike Thurston. You have, for example, those red shorts in Ibiza where you're looking absolutely insane. It doesn't make sense how good you're looking. Then you say, you know what? I took a couple weeks on a vacation. I sipped a few margaritas. And so I chilled out a little and I lost 20 pounds of muscle. And so that is very important. Always cycle off, but don't show the photos of you when you're smaller. Keep showing throwbacks and claim to the world that you just aren't locked in. And during that time, the day before you go back on steroids and performance-enhancing drugs, you get your blood work taken on that very day and you show it to the world. You say, look, see, I have healthy blood work, I'm natural, and now you have to believe me. Very important. If you don't do that, people are going to question you. And so guys like Michael Hearn, who stated, I'm lifetime natural, he hasn't ever posted his blood work. That's why it's so sus. I mean, if Mike had cycled off using performance enhancing drugs for just 2 or 3 months a year, he could easily just take that blood work and post it and say, see, I'm natural. Look, everything's in order. But he can't even do that because he's always on. Next, this is a really good one. If you lie about your weight in the before and or the after, it gives you more credibility and or the opposite. If you want people to call you a fake natty, for example, Matt Does Fitness, you lie about your starting weight and you lie about your end weight. And so what you do is you say that you're even smaller than you were at the beginning and heavier than you were at the end. And so, for example, if you went from 190 to 210 in a year, you would say, guys, I started at 180 and in a year, I'm 224. It would be 44 pounds of muscle. And so just by reading it, you're thinking, well, this is impossible. You're a fake natty. They do this all the time in TV movies and so on. The actors, they'll say, you know, I started at 195 pounds and I ended at 245. I put on 50 pounds in 5 months. And people are thinking, that's not possible. That means that you're not natural. But all the whiles, you weren't actually 195. Perhaps you were 215 and you never made it to 250. And so you actually put on less muscle and you don't specifically state how long it actually took. And so, for example, when Hussein Farhat said, you know, I weigh 120s when I started, I'm 180 plus right now, automatically you're thinking, well, that's 60 pounds. That seems pretty much impossible. Then later you find out he actually did the conversion wrong from kilograms to pounds and he was started in the 130s and he competed at 166 pounds on stage. You're thinking, well, originally, we thought it was 60 pounds of muscle. Now it's a little over 40, and stage weight, it's even less. And so you're thinking, well, maybe it's possible. But if you want people to think you're a fake natty, which is a very smart business practice, do you know how viral you become? Togi, he said it best. You want half the people to hate you, half to like you. It allows you to go viral. And so if everyone says, yeah, look at his physique, he's probably natural. I don't think he cheated. I don't think he used steroids. Do you really think you become a viral sensation? And so what you need to do is convince the world that you're a fake natty, all the while you're actually natural. And so another strong recommendation is the before and after photo. You show a photo of yourself a couple of years younger and confuse the world and think, you know what? There's no way they went from that to that. Meanwhile, the photo is perhaps 2 or 3 years younger. And so show a photo when you're, 13, 14, 15 and say that you're 17. That is a very good way to convince people that you're a fake natty. And in the after photo, you say whatever weight you want. And all the while, what you really need to do is Photoshop. Now, I'm not talking about the kind that Goop will say that you're, in fact, altering your photos. You just Photoshop it in this sense. You add in some tint, some sharpness, some structure. These guys, they're doing this. And so if you want to be a fake natty, you just got to play with the lighting, the angles, the filters, everything, and you're going to have everyone believing. Next, you got to take Cialis. I know you're thinking, well, what does having sexy time have to do with it? Well, if you can land all of the bitches, you can take them down. People are going to say, well, for you to be able to get so many girls, you must be a fake natty because girls, they love those bodies, that muscle and so on. And so, no, it's none of that stuff. It's because Cialis causes you to get a better pump, the vascularity. And so you really need to have that vein. It gives you the fake natty look. If you don't have a bicep vein, are you actually on steroids? Because what's wrong with you? No bicep vein means you're either fat or you're natural or both or skinny or it's not good. If you're interested in getting actual Cialis and or Viagra and or enclomiphene and or peptides, I've partnered with and am in fact an equity owner in Algo RX. A problem with some of these clinics, for example, Merrick Health, is they're so freaking expensive. I was partnered with the company in the past and almost 90% they couldn't afford it. And so they go to the channel, they go to the website, they go to order. Are you kidding? You have to spend $250 for this, $500 for blood work for that, and you can't afford it. Now at Algo RX, if you want Cialis, you got to pay like a $15 doctor fee and you can purchase as much Cialis as you need. It's very, very cheap. For example, 3 months, I do believe, was only $105 for 3 months supply. And if you want doctors to prescribe you pharmaceutical medications, maybe it's telmisartan because you have high blood pressure, and clomiphene because your testosterone's lower than last time, whatever, get on the website, code Greg, 10% off. And not to be outdone by seialis is you got to get a proper tan. A proper tan, as well as you're well-groomed, shaved, if you will, you're going to look significantly leaner. We saw Borat do it. Borat, he shaved his body, he darkened the skin, and look how much better he looks. Now, Mike Israetel, he doesn't have very good tan. He's admitted this in the past, and he's going through a number of surgeries to look better. The low-hanging fruit is the proper tan, shaving, being well-groomed, and using some seialis, and, well, purchasing momentous clothing. I mean, Hussein Farhat, is he perhaps the most infamous fake natty in the world? I think it's between him and Julian at this point. I mean, even though they showed the blood work multiple times saying that they're natural, they must do every one of these in this list. And so he wears the really tight clothing or the really loose clothing. It's one or the other. And so the tight clothing, the tank top, it's hugs to his waist. It's very tight, and so it accentuates just how small his waist is, and he works out the show muscles. We saw this in Jeff Nippard's video. And so again, to be a fake natty, the muscles that people can see, those are the ones you need to work on. And so guys, if you want to be a fake natty, you don't need to train your legs, but you do need to cover them up. And so for example, Hussein Farhat, he's wearing various jogging and or track pants from Momentous Apparel, and you can see it covers up the legs. Do not do as says, which is to show the legs.
Show the legs, bro. Show the legs.
Don't do that. What you want to do is show the chest, the shoulders, and the arms. That is the show muscles. 20 minutes later, can you see what you need to wear? Momentous clothing. And if you do decide to compete, make sure you've cycled off the performance-enhancing drugs before the competition, like Prosper Fitness. That is very important. You don't want to fail the drug test. Now, another option, if you do choose to compete, is you compete in a non-drug tested competition. And the reason why you're entering that competition is you say, I wanted to have a real challenge. I didn't want to go against natural bodybuilders. I wanted to truly challenge myself against the best of the best. That will always convince people that, hey, you're just that good. You don't need steroids to win bodybuilding competitions. And so very important that if you want to be at the top tier fake natty, that you earn an IFBB Pro card. Another one, when people ask you about needles, injections, steroids, and so on, always say that you're scared of blood, that you're scared of needles, and that there's no way you could take them. For example, when Julian was asked about performance-enhancing drugs, he says he's scared of needles.
Right, I'm like afraid of needles. I hate needles like so much.
And so just because there are dozens of steroid options that you can take orally, or for example, SARMs and so on, droppers, pills, there's so many different ways. You have to say you're scared of needles, and that will perhaps move the needle. Also, for your before and after transformations, it's very important that in the before, you make yourself look as horrible as possible, preferably with no shaved skin, with no tan, and slouching a little bit and further off in the distance with a really shitty camera. You kind of like just sit like this. Perhaps you stick the stomach out. You just try to look as unimpressive as popular, and then in the after, make sure you do a lot of pumps, rub on some oil, some cream, be sure to take some seialis, and pose under the best and most optimal lighting condition. Give it your best, most muscular versus the little relaxed shot, the best, most muscular, flex everything. Post the before and after. That's going to add at least 2 years of training to your look. Trust me, if you're natural and you do this, you can convince almost everyone that you're a fake natty. And remember, another warning for you is do not compete in Olympic sports ever, because those sports, they have athlete locator forms. And what that means is that they can drug test you at any time that they want. And so, for example, when I was competing in powerlifting at the international level, you have to submit your exact whereabouts so that they can come and drug test you at work, at your home in the morning, at 6 a.m., at your gym, anywhere. And you have to explain to everyone about the vacations that you're going on and so on. And so it's much harder to cheat.
All right, come on.
Tell everyone that you have friends and family and that you would never disappoint them, because no one would ever lie to their significant other that they're using performance enhancing drugs. And so if you have a friend that tells you to your face, eye to eye, bro, I'm natural. Well, believe them automatically because they would never lie to you. In the same extent, if you have a girlfriend and you look her in the eyes and say, you would never cheat on me, right? You would never send bro that DM. She's going to look at you and say, never, dear. And so never, ever question that it's ever possible. Of course it is not. I mean, there isn't a 60% divorce rate. I'm sure that if you're married, she promised that she'll be faithful and you did too, and it could never happen. Get the prenup. One of the things you can do in today's day and age is enclomiphene. It used to be TRT, HRT, testosterone. Now it's enclomiphene, which is available in oral form. Remember, you can get this from AlgoRx. Click the link in the description. And so remember, this is what I do believe guys like Chris Williamson have been taking. You probably think he's 100% natural. He would never do that. He literally posted how his testosterone levels had gone through the roof from taking supplements, and his testosterone was over 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. That is high. And so if you want to be a fake natty, you can take enclomiphene and just not tell anyone about it. And you could say, hey, I don't take steroids. I'm not even on HRT. But yet you're on enclomiphene, which is banned by WADA and clearly makes you a fake natty. But many people will still think that you're natural. And remember, it's very important to make slow and steady gains. You do not want to have large gains up and down. And so with Hussein Farhat, he has to keep putting on muscle. If he doesn't put on muscle, people are going to say, well, he just used steroids for the first 2 years and then got off of them and then kept every ounce of that muscle and his strength and just kept going. And so what you need is you need to keep increasing the muscle size, increasing the strength, because if you do so, people are going to say, yeah, you're probably natural. And so do you know that Hussein, had he actually taken steroids, SARMs, whatever, but had made even slower progress, just lower it down. Just gain 15 pounds of muscle the first year and 10 pounds every year after that. 5 years later, he's up 65 pounds and he would say, well, you know what? Every year I put on about 10 pounds of muscle. It's consistent. What should happen if you're natural is you put on a lot of muscle the first year, less the second, even less the third, and it keeps going down. But if people see you gaining too much muscle too quickly, they're not going to believe you. And so you just low dose it out. Put on 5 or 6 pounds of muscle each and every year, and people say, well, that's doable. Problem is, it's doable, yes, for people with elite level genetics, 1 in 1,000, 1 in a million, of course they can do it. But the average Joe, for example, Borat, you think this guy is going to put on any muscle really at 53 years of age while going on a dramatic calorie deficit and getting to perhaps 12% body fat or less? And so the secret is to take small doses and make very small gains, but more than you could have, perhaps just double those gains, and you can do that indefinitely. Another point. Don't get too shredded. For example, Jeff Nippard, I do believe that many people actually believed he was natural. He was weighing perhaps in the 180s, around 20% body fat. Remember, he's a shorter guy. He's under 5'5". But a lot of people believed him. I made a video, more than one, saying he's 100% natural. Some people didn't believe me and said you're just covering for him. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm just telling you what I think. But as of late, he dieted down to perhaps single-digit body fat, perhaps 10%, somewhere around there. And he was 155 pounds. And so now that he's very lean, his waist is smaller, you can see the obliques, he's getting shredded, people now are saying, you're a fake natty. And so when he had more body fat, 20%, 185 pounds, he was natural, but now that he's lost 30 pounds, of which some of it is muscle, and he's 10% body fat weighing a whooping 155, well, he's a fake natty. And so if Jeff wanted to have no one think that he was a fake natty, he should have kept his weight around 165, somewhere in the middle. That way, people will believe it, because once you get below 12%, especially 10%, not many people are going to say that you're natural, because most people believe this. You can have size, you can have strength, and you can have shreds, but you can't have all three. Well, you can if you're 1 in a million. And as far as being natural, you need to say that you eat chicken, broccoli, and rice, or that you follow your own training app. That is another important one. You've created an app and you just follow it to a T, and you have science-based lifting. And if you do all those things, well, you're clearly natural. And so Superman, I believe he says he sleeps 10 hours every single night and a 2-hour nap on top of that. And so 12 hours to sleep a night. And so there's the answer. If you want to explain having to put on 30 plus pounds of muscle very quickly, even after years of training, you just said you slept it off. Remember that drama with Jeff Cavalier about 5 years ago when he was accused of being a fake natty as well as using fake plates? And so he then made a response and said, hey, I'm actually natural and you come and test me. And if I pass, you owe me $1 million. Well, A, by not addressing the fake weights portion, that proves that you did use fake weights. And B, if somebody has to fly to meet you and do a drug test and they owe you $1 million, if you pass, well, that's a little bit too risky. And so what you really need to do is say this. You can test me whenever you want. I'll go to the blood work clinic. For example, Algo RX can test you. And if I fail, I'll pay you $100,000. And so remember the catabolic twig said there's no way Hussein is natural? He has passed 3 blood work tests in the last year. And so he can test him at any time. He still says it to this day. If he ever fails, it's $100,000. And so if you're all so sure that Hussein is a fake natty, why aren't you lining up to collect the $100,000? It seems simple. And so if you want to get your blood work done, remember Algo RX, if you compared them to, for example, Merrick Health, you will not believe how much cheaper that they actually are. And so I challenge you, call Merrick Health and then call Algo RX. Check them both out. And when you see that the prices are less than half, which one are you going to do? I don't like seeing so many people that need medical care to get turned away because they don't have the money. And so if you're not rich, you can't afford to spend all your money, please check out Algo RX. And so the last but not least, perhaps this is the most important thing you can do. If you make too many gains, just say you're on Turk Builder Max or Turk Platinum, or say you went from this one to this one and it's that much better. You have to have an explanation. You have to give them something. Guys, I know that this physique, it's mind-blowing. I know that 99.9% of the world couldn't achieve this, but I am on the Turk, Ajuga Turkistanica, and it can't be from Gorilla Mind, which is fake. That's right, it's fake. Do I look like I'm being sued? I have chain of custody proving exactly what I'm saying. And so if you want to actually get Ajuga Turkistanica, not cyanosis, for example, from China, you want the real stuff. And I keep getting these comments, it's not from Uzbekistan, you're lying, it's from the United... No, it's manufactured, made in, all of it takes place in Uzbekistan. And so if you're interested in Turk Builder Max or Turk Platinum, remember, money back guarantee and a $20 gift card. And so if you were scared of being scammed from other people, this ain't no scam. Money back guarantee. Oh, and if you were scammed, you show proof of purchase from another company. For example, Gorilla Mind, you show us that you bought it, giving it to you 50% off, because all I need to do is have you try it. The rebuy rates are through the roof. And so what that means is people bought it once and then they come back and rebuy it again because they couldn't believe how well it actually worked. A lot of people are on the fence, they try it, and then they're hooked for life. And so by giving you that 50% incentive because you got ripped off, scammed in the past, you show us that, we then sell it to you half price, you love it, and then you buy 10 more. That's how I do it. I can get you addicted to the best, most effective supplement in the world, far better than even creatine. Hopefully you learned something. Ending it here. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Please like the video if you liked it. Don't forget to watch those 2 bloops. And until next time, buy the friggin' cookbook. I'm out. I'm gay.